Hello, the show's website has been a place where we've essentially dumped our content and implemented a few things that we've talked about early on in the podcast. It's functional, but it's not yet designed to a specific audience, as we've only just started talking about the design process on the show. Nevertheless, it is the first web project that I've done since 2007 that's not in some ways involved WordPress. So with that in mind, I thought I would do a few videos on my early experience switching from a dynamic platform to manually building static sites, as I've not found other content on this topic. Here, I'm going to concentrate on what I felt was my biggest psychological hurdle in this changeover. And that's the concept of having a platform, all my tools in one place. So with WordPress, I was used to having a starter site already pre-configured with various add-ons that I might need for a new project. And this was efficient earlier on, but with increased change and competition in the space, it's got less effective. But mostly I've been happy to adapt to whatever the platform threw at me, because I've become so attached to the idea of having one place for everything. And I think this was so ingrained in me that when I first thought I should do some hand coding of sites, I instantly looked for new platforms, the new static site generators, which of course with increased popularity, it's not inconceivable that these won't attract the same kind of growth issues that come with WordPress. So to avoid the tail wagging the dog for as long as I can, I'm trying to recreate the idea of a central location, but in this case, using Save Browser tabs containing some of the best online tools out there. For all I know, this might be what everybody else does, but the idea for me was that I would customize these to each project and also each stage of the project. So the thing that we skipped over, the design, we may want to have more links that are going to graphic design resources and maybe even CSS layout code snippets that might be handy. Presently, though, we've just been adding content, so SEO and article creation tools are what's been needed. I've no doubt all of these will change over time, but at least it remains independent to my main working space. And in case you're like me and didn't know that you can save a range of tabs like this without an extension, this is a Chromium browser. In fact, it is Chrome. And all you need to do then is to select the first tab, hold down the Shift key, select the last one, and then on the same toolbar somewhere else on the right click. And well, it says here, bookmark all tabs. I think if you're using Edge, it will say save all pages to favorites. So that might vary, but then you can do that and add in your folder. I've already done it, so I won't do that again. And to bring it up, it's pretty easy on a Windows. It's Control, Shift, and the O key together, and that brings that up. We can find it, right click, and then open them. I'm sure on Mac, it must be Command, Shift, and O. Let me get rid of this. And for the rest of this video, I'll just quickly go over the tabs I've got. Obviously, things will change. I'll skip over these quickly. It's really just to generate a conversation. I'll be really interested in what other people are doing with this. Anyway, this is an insight to my thought process at the moment. So the first tab I have is a link to the live server that I've got in VS Code or through the extension live server. Of course, I can do all the code in here and see what I'm doing live, but I might need to dual screen, and I'll almost certainly want to go and use the inspect tools at some point, or maybe use an extension like the web developers toolbar, which is very popular. One of the shifts I thought was I'm so used to logging into WordPress and then just publishing and everything's done for me. I thought that might be more cumbersome with going to another host in Netlify in our case, but actually it's just as simple really. If I've got something set up, which is going to the deploy tab, and as long as I'm not doing, which I might do on some things where I'm version controlling via GitHub, then this won't be so straightforward perhaps, but here I just need to drag and drop and it's pretty quick and it's similar to just pressing publish in a CMS. And then the next tab is the live site, so I can see any of those changes. The first thing where I thought I needed some extra tools to help me with the coding was with the SEO, and I've started using metatags.io. So this is pretty new to me. Let me bring up the editor. So the issue I had, it's quite cumbersome to write out all the SEO stuff you might need. But initially I was just thinking, I don't have a way of counting the words that I'm putting in my title. I know I want them to be 55 to 60 ideally. I know I want my meta description to be around 50 to 160 maximum, but I can't see what I'm doing there. So I need a way of counting. So that made me look. But also I thought we are making content which wants to be shareable, so needs to look attractive. So I need open graph images for Facebook and Twitter's own thing. So this is what this does. And it's showing one of the published pages here. So it's bringing forward the data and what's there. And it shows me how it looks on other things like Slack, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. Now I've setting up my format, so this will look a little bit better from the one screenshot on here. But what I can do in here is I can put a future URL, then get my word count over here, fill in my description, and get the code. I can upload an image, but I'm not in this case. So let me just go here. Even if you upload an image, it doesn't know where you're saving it, of course, in your folder. So it puts its own in. So if I copy that and then go into my code editor, I've already pasted it in here. And I'm quite pleased with myself with this because we create one image and we put it on YouTube because all content's going to YouTube. Then create the thumbnail of that. And then I've got that in my code anyway. So I just replace that where it needs the Twitter image and where it needs the OG image over here. So I get YouTube to host the images that are going to all the other social media. So I don't need to put them in my own folder. So I was quite pleased with that arrangement. Another SEO, which I mentioned before, which is a lot easier to do. I think you need a premium plugin to be able to add schema to your markup, where it's pretty easy to do that if you've got access to the HTML. And with a tool like this one, classyschema.org here, I can put my YouTube URL in there and it's going to generate me the JSON file that I can add to my head tag. So that's a much easier than what I had before. And what I now have to do manually that WordPress did for me was generate an XML sitemap, or a plugin might do that. So I can do that with this tool pretty easy. Just put in that it's going to look around and see what you've got published already. And then you can just download it. I am looking into the pro version on here. I think this is important to do this and submit your sitemaps to Google and perhaps Bing in the early days. But I think once they start crawling you, I'm not sure how needed this is to keep updating it all the time. I've heard various different things from people representing Google on that. But that's that. Let me move on to the next thing that I wanted to sort out. And in WordPress, then I had, again, it was another paid add-on, something to optimize my images for me. But it can't be as good as Google's own Squoosh app here, where we can set things ourselves and get the modern format. So that's what I'm using. It works pretty well. I've just put an image up here so I can show you if I go and print the screen on this so I can grab it. And actually, I use something called ShareX, which will allow me to set the actual aspect ratio on something like this. So if I've got that across sites, I can do it quickly like this. But I can just go over to Squoosh and I can paste this in. And let me just set this to the original. So it's over 1 megabyte, and then this gets down to 83 on this. And then I can just download this to my folder. And pretty much the presets are good. I can resize things here as well. And that's it. It really needs another video, but just out of the box, it works quite well. And related to images, again, something else that's going to need another video on it because it's a bit more complex here. WordPress does generate you responsive images, meaning that you upload an image and it crops a whole different range of them. So depending on the viewport width of the user that's coming, it will serve us the right size image, a smaller one if the viewport width is small, which is very good for speed. In fact, with WordPress, I disabled it anyway because there were some other issues what I won't get into at the moment. But any CMS is not going to be as good at being able to generate what you need yourself. And this is what this tool does. So obviously, it doesn't have the automation that WordPress gives you. You have to do this manually. But if you try and do this manually, to try and create the same thing is really difficult. If you had something like this where it's a double-sized image for Retina screens, and I'm creating lots of breakpoints, you can set these. That's a lot of images to crop and then put into your code like this. But this does it for you. And I will talk about this again. And you probably won't want that many images over here. You download them so you can download them as a zip file. And all you actually need to do, well, maybe put your widths and heights in the bottom, and you need to just link them to where it is. So I just need to put the /images on this one to link all of those up. But it's so quick, and obviously it's going to produce a better result. But there is more to talk about it because you can improve on this even further. But that's it, really. I'm coming to the end. There are just some other things. I have Stencil that I use here. It could be Canvas. I'm using this to escape some HTML. I'm checking my Google Search Console, and they have MDN records. But that's it. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.